the Everything But Politics podcast.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Everything But Politics podcast, where I'm pleased to welcome this week's guest, Mena Mikhail. Mena is the founder and CEO of Human Voiceover, and we are extremely excited to learn more about what he's built. Mena, well, thank you for joining our show, brother.
Awesome to be here. I appreciate you guys reaching out and getting me on. This is my first ever podcast. So if it's a little bit rusty, we're just getting started.
100%. All good, brother. I just want to give a quick shout out to our mutual connect here, Eunice, for putting us in touch, giving me the opportunity to learn more about what you guys are doing at Human Voiceover. And as the founder of Human Voiceover, I would love if you can give our listeners a brief description of what it is, what you guys are building, and what it is you guys do.
Yeah, totally. So to keep it nice and sweet, we pretty much translate videos into new languages for YouTube creators. And we do this with human voice actors. And I'm sure a lot of people have heard of the term AI dubbing in the past few months. It's been blowing up pretty much all over the place. And what we decided to do was create an ecosystem where creators can pick some of the best voice talent to choose from that still want to create an emotional bond with their viewer that can actually resonate with the viewer versus just a robot talking to the other end of the screen. And we feel that that approach has had much better results for some of the largest creators out there, and those that truly care about what they put out are going to be going to opt in more for the type of content where it really can resonate with the viewer, and only humans can really resonate with other humans as of now.
I like it. And Mina, take us back to the inception of this idea. You founded this company fairly recently. When did the light bulb go off?
Yeah, so I actually was in the process of building a software company for car dealerships before I started this, something completely left field. And and I was watching the Joe Rogan and Mr. Beast podcast, and in that podcast, Mr. Beast went into describing how he went out and flew across the world to handpick his voice talent for his channel. And it really caught my eye because I figured that he wasn't going to be the only person that needed this for his channel. And for him to go out and work with multiple different vendors that do this type of work, it's a lot to handle. However, he does have the resources to work with such a big team and have a lot of it delegated, where other creators are usually more in-house and they just work with a small few group of people. And we figured that if you want to expand your reach without having to go to all those different places, it can be done remotely. And so we then just started out by connecting with voice actors individually and connecting them with creators that we were in touch with at the time, and just pinpointing connecting dots. And from there, it sort of kept leading into sort of bigger projects with other creators. And we got blessed with a partner from the complete opposite side of the world that I just met him this past week. And uh, he has been in the voiceover industry for the past 20 years, and he was pretty much scared shitless about the rise of AI. And he wanted to make sure his staff can continue to do what they love, which they've been doing for the past 20 plus years. So he basically was like, look, if you can actually connect these dots and give us the work that we've been looking for, by all means do it. And so we sort of took the reins of his production and made it possible to work within a creator schedule versus TV and film.
And Mina, you use the word we. How big is your team? And was computer coding and software, was that stuff you learned growing up?
So I actually have been into Photoshop and thumbnail design and like the creator economy from a very young age. So I started using Photoshop when I was 12 years old, and just for the fun of it. I remember seeing someone post like graphics on Twitter, and I was like, how'd you make this? And I ended up bootlegging a copy of CS4, I think it was, on my MacBook at the time, and just I figured from a very young age how to make stuff that sort of can attract the eye, and eventually I was working with clans on Call of Duty when I was like 14, 15, and I was like their head GFX designer, and there was like a whole GFX community on Twitter, and that lasted for uh, I think until like freshman year of high school, and it's a skill set that has done me very well, I would say, learning how to be able to leverage those types of softwares where it's not necessarily coding. I've worked with developers in the past, but uh, putting ideas together from one, like taking a vision from nothing to making it to where people can actually conceptualize it and understand what it is, has something that I've been practicing for a pretty long time.
Yeah, but dude, that's awesome. Definitely a great skill to have too, getting into Photoshop at such a young age and then kind of continuing to develop your palette there. So it's cool. It's cool to hear that. But obviously, the industry you're pursuing, got to ask some questions about AI here. Um,
Yeah.
Something Sam Altman recently said was right now, AI is the dumbest it'll ever be. And I suppose that is true for every single day ever moving forward. Um, with your company being founded so recently, really around the same time AI became mainstream, how do you compete with AI as it only becomes smarter and better, really?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, with AI, I think it's going to have its benefits as well as its downsides. I think in terms of getting your message across to multiple different types of people, it will really make a huge impact there, especially in like the education and infotainment, especially podcasts in particular, where it's just one to two speakers and it's not a lot of engaging tonalities and not a lot of uh, like movement within the content. Whereas with entertainment, it could be up to 10 people in a whole scene, maybe even in a kitchen where stuff is flying around. There's a lot of background noise, a lot of music and effects, to where AI would have to be able to replicate emotion and tonalities of screaming and tonalities of whispering. And up until now, we're not quite there yet. However, I do see it coming into fruition in the future. And it all comes down to the use case for the person that is providing the value, which is the content at the end of the day. So if you make videos and if you do it with AI just to expand your reach and try to get more people to listen in from different places, it will be beneficial. But when you have the human touch and you're able to create that resonance where it's aligned with the person that's viewing's culture from scratch, I think it has the utmost sincerity to it, and I think that's what people gravitate towards.
And as it continues to develop, how do you stay ahead of the inevitability of its superiority of just getting bigger and stronger and more intelligent?
So right now we actually use a few AI tools, but only for drafting purposes. So
Gotcha.
a lot of a lot of people would think that the voice actor is the most important part of our whole process. It's actually the translator. So the better the script, the better the outcome the voice actor can put out. And it as of now, machine translation, it's really good for drafting and getting like a rough example of what needs to be done. However, those cultural nuances where it's like a joke in English is not the same joke in Spanish because
Oh yeah.
yeah. So until AI can make that distinction, which I think we're still far times away from, even though I do think it's coming, uh, it won't have that much of an effect.
So when you hear things like, are you familiar with that AI generated Drake and the Weekend song that kind of blew up not too long ago? It's
Yeah,
called
yeah.
Heart. What is it called? Heart on My Sleeve. For anyone listening, you can find it on YouTube. It's really sound. If you just heard it, you would have no idea. When you hear things like that, what's your initial reaction?
So I actually think that type of technology is quite different because what it someone still has to sing into the microphone for in order for that to come out. what it does is like you'll be like if you wanted to do it, you could sing into a microphone the lyrics of a song, and then it will just basically change the your voice into a voice that more sounds like him. So like it's still like relies heavily on human input. So like it's not like someone just typed in the lyrics, click generate, and then boom, that song came out. Someone still had to sing into a microphone in order to get that done.
Well, and are there
It's crazy.
services that you don't have to sing the lyrics, that it will just come up with the lyrics and you could put Drake or The Weeknd's voice on it?
I'm pretty sure people are working on that. Uh, in terms of quality, though, I've heard a bunch of AI songs that some were like blew my mind, and some were just like utter dog shit. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here, but
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
good. Well, so how about this then, Mina? I want you to talk us through what are your services like? Say I will come to you. I want you to help grow my brand, explore and share my content with different cultures, different continents, really. What does human voiceover do?
so I would say what sets us apart from most is our ability to actually help, and by help, what I mean by that is really the channels that we choose to work with are channels that we think have already built an audience at home and have proved that that has been capable for them, and they're ready for that next step of expanding their brand. And a lot of times it usually falls down into a few categories, whether the channel is looking to sell a product or a service in a new place, or uh, just wanting to get as much reach as possible, or even just make their fans happy. It usually falls down into one of those buckets because at the end of the day, dubbing with humans, it isn't the cheapest thing in the world, and we understand that. And what makes us stand out is that we have over 1,200 voice actors across 42 different countries, and
Impressive.
yeah, and we pretty much have been able to handle the reins of multitasking on behalf of the creator. So instead of the creator having to go out and deal with 8 or 9 different vendors for each language, we do it all pretty much under one roof. And it's a we've created a seamless drag and drop process where the dubs come back the same exact length as the original video, as well as the script, and they just drag the SRT file as well as the audio file right into YouTube as they're uploading the video, and it comes out crystal clear. And with with YouTube's multi-language audio track feature that recently just came out earlier this year and is still rolling out to a lot of channels, that feature is a bit tricky, and it took us quite some time to figure out what makes it work well. And after getting to the bottom of it, what we found that is if you don't dub at least 50% of your backlog or 80% of videos with the highest watch time on your channel, it'll take another 50 videos or a whole new set of videos with the highest watch time that are dubbed in order for the impact to start. So it, a lot of channels think that they could just upload a new video and add the audio track and think that the results are just going to kick off right away. But YouTube actually designed this feature to incentivize commitment, which I think makes a lot of sense because in order to reap the reward, you have to put in the work the same way they did it when they first started their channel.
And how did they do it when they first started their channel compared to now?
So when they first started their channel, obviously they weren't big YouTubers overnight. They
Mm.
had to go through the grind and and days of no monetization in order to be able to unlock that type of capability. And they've sort of made this feature work in the same way, where you can't just upload one and it's a hit automatically and you're pulling in a lot of revenue from it. If you have a lot of videos on your channel, it really does, like I would say the sweet spot is 9 to 12 months just to even know if your content sits well in that region. So
How consistent is the content being put out?
weekly, sometimes multiple times a week, and we typically do ongoing videos at a 7-day turnaround and backlog videos at a 30-day turnaround. So we'll do like a whole batch of your backlog up to 600 minutes a month in each language. And for ongoing videos, we'll do up to, I think, 150 minutes a week in each language. And yeah, uh, that way we get to schedule appropriately so that no one's overworked. And it's I would argue that on like on our internal side, one of the coolest things that we do is we get to incentivize the actors. Whereas on Netflix or like other streaming services, that's not really the case. So with YouTube, there's live feedback comments from the viewers, right? So they get to basically talk and tell us how good the dubs are. And basically we track that in real time whenever a new comment is posted in one of the languages that we dub, and we get to immediately send that back to the creator to show them the feedback that they're getting, as well as show it to the actor themselves to say, hey, people are appreciating your work. Whereas like if you listen to Squid Game and that was dubbed and you didn't like it, it's not like you can hit up Netflix and be like, yo, this was trash.
Yeah.
So that feedback loop that we've been able to create has made a much better work-life balance for a lot of these actors, whereas they actually fall into the channel's role and they feel like they're a part of it. And that's been huge because when you feel like you're a part of something, you work a lot harder in it and the output speaks for it. So it comes out for a much better end quality for the viewer, the actor, as well as the channel.
Yeah, well, and how many customers do you have now? And when you first started, how did you kind of outreach to get customers?
Yeah, yeah. So, uh, good old cold email, man. I mean, it's
Yeah.
you would think that a lot of creators' emails inboxes are full, which is the case. Trust me, that they don't really tend to read their emails. A lot of time we're going back and forth with the talent managers and stuff, which isn't bad. It's a cool experience. However, the our approach, since we knew we were a small company that just started and we wanted to break the door and really show people what we can deliver, is we would just do the work for free. so so pretty much we would cover the cost of a sample done in 4 to 5 different languages and pick out one of their videos and just send it to them. And sometimes they answered and sometimes they didn't. And those were costs that I was barely able to incur at the time. However, I felt that it was a risk worth taking versus hiring someone to try to go be an agent and reach out to people. We figured that just putting the end product in people's hands will sit with them better and show them that we actually can do this for them and want to, because like one of the biggest factors in what we do truly is the commitment. Like when a creator comes to us, uh, we tend to turn down more creators than we onboard, simply because we're at a position now where actors are looking for set roles for a long period of time, and in doing so, we get to create that sort of longevity for them and the channel. So when a channel isn't thinking such forwardly and looking at their future in a way where they can see themselves in a new region, uh, we tend to not want to pursue that. Like we've had a lot of people want to test it out for 3 months or do a few videos, and it's not that we can't. We definitely could. It's that the output of viewership will not exceed their expectations. And that's simply just the way the algorithm works. And in a lot of places, in order for dub content to sit well, retention is super important. So, like, if I go watch someone's video in Spanish and then I go click the next one and it's not in Spanish, what's the likelihood of me to continue watching that channel?
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
And Mina, you've said we a couple times. How big is the team that you have now, and how big was it when you first started?
So I like to call myself a one-man army, but uh, but we're about 7 or 8 guys from between outreach as well as marketing and sales, and uh, that's not including any of our voice talent that now works remote. So we ever since the coronavirus Actors don't have to go into the studio now to record. We've
Mhm.
been able to set up at home studios for them, which has been huge in terms of production capabilities. Where, uh, like, another really cool thing that we're able to do is, like, let's say Mr. Beast is in an Airac video, and we're the ones who dub Mr. Beast. Uh, the same actor that dubs Mr. Beast will follow him into that Airac video if we also work with Airac, and vice versa. So if Airac is in a Mr. Beast video, our voice actor that dubs Airac will follow him into that Mr. Beast video, which it 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 sounds far fetched, but in the grand scheme of things, it's the coolest thing when you create like the multiverse of channels that is across multiple language barriers. It's truly incredible.
And the cool thing about that too is that um, something you couldn't do years and years ago. The world felt so big. Doing something like that makes the world feel so small when you're talking to someone across the world.
Yeah, yeah, and you know it's awesome because when it does work out and when a channel does have the vision and they start seeing the results of the work, it it truly is incredible because they would never expect their content to sit well with someone across the globe and actually be able to enjoy it. Whereas in English, only 17% of the world speaks English, you know, and that's quite a small amount in comparison to the rest of the world. So a lot of channels here in the US will eventually hit a plateau, especially as their current demographic either grows in age or just becomes uninterested over time. So being able to expand that, really, it opens the door to a lot of new things for channels, especially um like just to bring up Mr. Beast because he's such a good example for this. He is planning to put Feastables bars in all different parts of the world. And if you go watch in a video in Japanese, it won't say go to Walmart since there's no Walmarts in Japan. It'll say go to your local 7-Eleven in Japan and you'll find Feastables there. So it really allows you to market yourselves in different areas for basically the same reach. Not the same reach, but like you get you get a far wider impact on the same message.
Wow. That's fascinating. And since like you've started, do you think the growth you guys have had up until this date is above expectations or below your expectations?
That's a good question. I mean, I tend to tell myself that we are where we're supposed to be, just to keep myself sane, and
Yeah.
we're taking it one step and one day at a time. And obviously, nothing worth doing is easy, and the the people that we would love to work with are probably the hardest people to get in touch with on the planet. And it's it makes for a very interesting combo where we know that the value that we can provide exceeds whatever cost the creator would be paying. It only is just a matter of time and the level of commitment that the creator has. But I want to mention a lot of a lot of my ethics and a lot of the stuff that I've used to propel us this far is from someone I like to call my mentor. I don't know, you guys probably heard of him. His name is Alex Hormozi. He's probably been a
100%.
mentor to he's been a
Yes.
mentor to many over these past year and a half where he's just exploded through the roof. I was lucky enough to find him pretty early on when he first started acquisition.com, and his advice, man, I've never had the opportunity to speak with him one to one, but just from the books and the podcasts, it's crazy to think that this level of knowledge is available out there, and it's uh it's for the taking, And you can sort of tell immediately when someone's doing it for the benefit of the viewer or for the benefit of themselves. And I feel like he's the perfect impediment of, like, I don't even know if that's the right word to use, but he's a perfect example of that, of just goodwill over everything. Goodwill compounds faster than revenue. And I'd like to I'd like to try to replicate that with human voiceover.
Yeah, I fucking love that. I love you could hear it in your voice, the passion. You got me fired up right now, Mina. That's pretty fucking awesome. But Mina, we gotta talk about marketing because obviously you don't get to where you're at without you can have the best product in the world, but if people don't know it exists, it's essentially worthless. Given the industry you've pursued, I take it you had to learn a lot about digital marketing. Um, what have you learned about digital marketing that's helped you take human voiceover to the next level?
That's a good question. It's a little bit vague, but because digital marketing, it's such a weird term to me because I don't even think of marketing as marketing because I was a marketing major until I failed calculus and then they kicked me out of the program and who knew you need calculus to be a good marketer, but uh, uh, I think that if you can, I think packaging is more important than marketing
Explain.
because but because if you can package your idea in a way that the person that you want to have it understand, it makes a further impact than just headline, call to action, grab. You know, maybe that's more because of my use case is so specific, but I don't know. I think when you market a product or a service and you do it just to get the click, it's noticeable. And it's usually a one and done type of scenario when it's that case. However, when you do it in a way where you actually touch the person to where they noticed something that they didn't notice before and they figured that they figured out that you have something that they don't, whether it's information, expertise, skills, that is what hits home. And when that's the case, it reaches far further than just a headline and a call to action. I don't know if that makes perfect sense, but it's just how I view it.
It does. And I feel like if you put all those things together, like you said, essentially as long as your product, service, content is providing value, then it'll hit. But I feel like that's the key. You could speak on this, but if you're not providing value, what good is your product?
And there are good products that like don't provide a ton of value, right? I mean, it all comes down to, I would say, how like what's the impact you want to have and what's the price you're willing to pay for it.
That's a good question.
Yeah, no, these are good points you make, man. This is good. Your first podcast has been pretty good, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I've actually I've thought about it for a long time, the whole podcast thing, and even thinking of starting one myself. However, it's a lot to juggle on top of a fresh new business.
Definitely. But like I going back to value, I mean, if you could provide value, then
Well,
as
and
long as you got consistent discipline, you'll succeed.
there's also a Gary V saying that, you start it, do 6 episodes. If you don't like it, quit.
Yeah, yeah.
So it
But
doesn't hurt to
you
try
know,
it.
to go back a little bit about what you said about marketing, I think the best marketers give away all the secrets and sell the consumption.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is they don't hide a single piece of their process. So even like some of the best ads that I've seen that have gotten me to purchase are ones where they show you every step of the process of the product. Like Nomadic does such a good job at that. The backpack brand where they not only do they show you where you can put all your stuff in the bag, they show you how the bag is made and how how committed they are to the process of making a perfect backpack and showcasing that, giving away all their secrets of how to make a perfect backpack gives them all of that. I don't know if you guys heard that. All of that expected return.
I mean, any other companies products come to mind that do that?
Um, I would say honestly, not a ton of the AI stuff right now. It's more cash grabby. Just get as many clicks as possible, as many subscriptions as possible. I think Zapier does a really good job at connecting applications together, and with that, you combined with AI, I think that has a lot of potential in the future, where like logistics businesses, businesses that have to deal with a lot of spreadsheets, maybe even like the trucking industry where you have to do inventory checks every day. I think that that area has a lot of potential in terms of automation.
And Mina, I want to go back to something you mentioned. Obviously, you consume a lot of Alex Hormozi content. Are there any other, I don't want to say podcasters, but people that inspire you in that space or books you've read that kind of have have led you to this mindset that you currently have?
Um, so books, I would recommend $100 million offers, $100 million leads. Uh, those are my like. I don't read that much to be honest, but I've read those books each probably like 7 times each at minimum. And Chris Williamson, his podcast of Modern Wisdom, is
I like
awesome.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, he has this one saying that hit me just right in the chest. It's the rarer you are, the rarer the people who share your perspective. In this way, the greater your success, the fewer people you can share it with. And I come from a small town where I grew up in church almost every week, and I had a group of friends that uh, majority of people I would argue didn't have growing up. My friend group, we used to roll 30 heads deep in the mall, and it everyone starts to slowly go into their own things, and friendships fade. And I was really lucky to have a great sense of community, and I still think that I have yet to use the community in a positive way. I do think that's something I want to pursue in my future, but it's one of the things where uh, I was very lucky to have a group of people around me that cared for me and unconditionally. You know, Uh, I never really got into the side of transactional relationships probably until the end of high school, and like some people catch it on later, some people catch it on earlier, but you know, uh, it reminds me of something Kanye said. It's like I'd rather be hated for what I am than loved for what I'm not. And I love business, and I can't hate the people that I love for not liking business.
Another
Yeah.
great quote. You're it's good, bro. All of that's good. And Chris Williamson is if anyone listening hasn't listened to Chris Williamson, can't recommend him enough either. He really is he gets some great guests and just like some great quotes coming from that podcast as well. So another
I'm
good
going to see him on December 8th.
Oh yeah?
Yeah,
That's
he's
cool.
coming to New York. Yeah, I had the chance to speak with him for a few minutes in Vid Summit in Texas,
Oh, nice.
which
I
was
got
awesome.
the
Yeah.
opportunity to meet him down in Miami in March, and he couldn't have been more gracious with his time. Very friendly guy. Um, Mina, I know you're busy. We're busy. So before we let you go here, what can people expect with you and human voiceover with 2024 right around the corner?
We're working on a bunch of big things. I think uh, be be aware of the partnerships that will come to fruition as we continue to grow, and like like I said earlier, if you go into a meeting or a partnership, just always try to give more than what you ask. I mean, when you do that, you will get stepped on, and people will take advantage. But if you zoom out, you end up taking more out of it at the end of the day.
Love it.
So I one thing that everyone I think struggles with, me too personally, is zooming out. You know, we get so caught up in the day to day. Just taking a second to zoom out and seeing where you were, where you are, and where you want to be. It just it leaves such it leaves such a good amount of uncertainty to where you don't know if it's going to work. I don't know what's going to happen in 2024, but what I do know is we're going to keep doing it.
Fuck yeah. Mena, you're the fucking man, bro. Appreciate you coming on our show and keep killing it, my man. Look forward to watching your success.
Yeah, it was a
Appreciate
good
you guys having me.
podcast, man. Really appreciate it.
No, you
All right,
guys are
guys.
awesome. Really, some
Meet
great
him.
questions.
Mena Mikhail, guys. Thank you.
See you next week.